1805 with the Africans, but with the indigenous, we go back forever. They've been here.
What group?
Well, we have mixed. We have really three groups. We have a connection to all of those Gulf Coast tribes, because everybody mixed up, even though people say they didn't mix up. But the Choctaw, Cherokee, and Creek nations are pretty clear there, all in the family. So, but
that's really your land. You got the title to that. You got the right to that land.
That's right. Say hey.
That's right.
4, 3, 2.
Yeah, welcome very much to Conversation. A great pleasure. Welcome to the program, my dear friend, Colia Clark, is our guest here. We've done about 1,000 programs, it seems to me, and it's so good to see you, Colia. Welcome. We were just chatting about some of the background that we ought to start out with, but we're here to talk some about I Can't Breathe and all the kind of things that are going on now with the whole. And see, she is, of course, a pioneer in the full sense of the word of the civil rights movement in this land of America. And we've talked about that with her in the past, and we're going to talk about it now. So, Colia, so good to welcome you to the conversation one more time.
Harold, it's always my pleasure to be here.
You are
over and over again, time after time.
You are something else. I just asked you, how are things going, darling? I hadn't seen you for talking. Well, we just had our house made a state, what do you call it?
Historic site,
historic site for the civil rights movement. And then I got talking to you, and I was saying, well, you go back to the 18th century. You go back Mississippi, right? You're Mississippi, and you go back you are a real pioneer of what was the civil rights movement that was borning out of Mississippi and grew through the 60s with Mr. King and all the rest of it and everything, and is still being seen on our streets and so forth like that.
Especially on your street.
My street, they came through in their hundreds. They came through right under our house and everything. It did recently. But let's talk about that a little bit. You're out of Mississippi, your family is you had a grandfather that was particularly interested. Talk about it. You were raised, and you're a real pioneer. You knew everybody that was growing out of the South, movement toward civil rights that flowered in the 60s and so forth. But let's talk about that, and then we'll get up and talk about the contemporary.
Let's talk a little bit about it. I generally talk about my mother's family because that's what the tough guy was.
Oh, that's your granddad.
The tough guy, I mean the one that would pull the trigger.
Yeah.
But my father's side well, I should start with mother's maternal side.
Yeah, okay.
Because I had a great-grandmother named Classy.
Okay.
And she had a sister named Cheney.
Classy?
Classy.
A Classy Lassie.
And then Classy, yes, she was classy.
Classy.
Classy,
okay.
yes.
Yeah.
And then her father was Ben Grimm.
Okay.
Ben Grimm, we would get Grimm. The only place I could find a Ben Grimm was actually in the Cherokee Nation, but we're not even clear that would have been her father. He is said to have had 2 sons. We get 2 daughters. Now, her story, she was 9 years old when she was given to a white family at Port Gibson, Mississippi, after the tribe was, of course, slaughtered by the Choctaw Nation, working with the British.
So you're mixed African and Amerindian?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, yeah, and the Choctaw. And what years are you talking about there?
Now I'm talking about this. The war with the Europeans would have been ending. I mean, this would have been the war with the British and the war with the Choctaw nations joining against the other indigenous nations. They joined against the Chickasaw, they joined against the Tesaw, the Creek, the Natchez, other nations that were living in what we knew as the Mississippi Territory.
Okay, yeah.
So the dates of when these end, I'm not clear about. Classy was 9, and if she indeed was the mother of indeed, she was the mother of Clem Richardson.
Okay.
They call him Richardson because it became Richardson slaves. It's an interesting story because even though she was a full-blood native, placed with a family at Port Gibson, Mississippi, I believe they were Wolfs, the family at Port Gibson, Mississippi, and told she was not a slave. and did stitchery. You know, they didn't put her in the kitchen. She didn't have to do that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But she still had children who were forced into slavery, all of her children. And she's a woman who had children. So this is a children's story. 27 babies when my baby stopped counting.
Yeah, wow.
I think she thought she was rebuilding the nation because she had an incident with a black sister in the kitchen.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
She was in the kitchen one day. She would slip in. She had nobody to talk with. There was, the master had, they had a little girl, a young girl her age, but the only conversation she had with her was about hair. This girl was always angry that this great-grandmother's hair would grow long. Her hair grew long too, but it didn't grow this long.
That long.
And so the master was always chopping her hair, chopping her hair off to please the daughter. But her story was that her family, what was left of the nation, was put on barges on the Mississippi River.
Wow.
And they were told they were shipping them into the Gulf of Mexico, where they were going to what we would know today as South America.
Wow.
She believed that they killed them all, that they just killed them all. And so she and her sister and a few others were the remaining of the members of the tribe. Now, the sister was placed with a family at New Orleans, Louisiana. They would meet again after slavery. So you're asking me for dates. I'm not sure on dates, but I do know that my great-great-grandfather, her son, was born in 1842. They were twins.
Way back.
She had twins. She had Clem Richardson and Aintney Richardson. And Richardson, because they were placed on, they were sold to a family at Terry, Mississippi.
Okay.
After a serious incident. We could go on with my stories.
Yeah, no, it's very interesting.
What happens is that this 9-year-old child, growing up in the master's quarters, so to speak, slipping out to slave quarters, slipping, but she had no company. She had nobody. So the Africans were her friends, the place that she could go to hang out. But she went one day into the kitchen when she was about 14, 15 years old. And there was a big black maid in there. She remembers a big black sister. And the sister took one look at her, threw a knife around her throat, and told her, if you don't go on and build your people's nation and fight these crackers, you dead.
All right. And the movement started right then and there.
It started, really. The family started. So Classy, of course, became a real flirt. So she went out, I guess, trying to find her a man. She had no native men. So she wound up dealing with a man who we believe was East Indian.
East Indian.
Because the white boy, the white man that owned them, decided that her children were slaves, even though you could, even to my grandmother right down there, so there would have been half and half or something. But all of them looked pure indigenous. And that's why I think it's an East Indian, because the brother, he decided that the children were black based on the father. But there is no evidence of any black presence among these children. If you see any of them right to this hour, you'll see the pure bloods coming up in the family.
I'll be damned, okay.
But that was Class's story. And they sold, the family showed up one day and asked for one of the twins. They were twins, the first two children. And she had sets of twins. I don't think she had anything but twins and triplets, but she had sets of them, one after the other.
Oh, what a story.
So what happens is that the owner decided to sell one of the boys. They were 4 years old.
Okay,
One of her boys.
Right.
Now she's free.
Sell,
She's told she's free. But he just came and said, we're going to sell. I don't know whether it was Aintney or Clem. I'm not really clear. But anyway, we're going to sell. Let's say Aintney, since he was the uncle.
Like sell the heifer.
So the family that came got the boys, needed somebody to play with their boy. They were from Terry, Mississippi, so they left. And then they noticed that the other child was missing. So there was this quest that went on for a few days trying to find the child who was not sold. When lo and behold, coming down the road, and Classy is going crazy, the whole revolt is happening with the Africans because now they're demanding to find the boy. This whole mess is going on. So they hear the wagon coming back down the road, and this is the woman and man who had bought the child. And they're upset because the child they bought is also missing.
I'll be darned.
So at this point, Classy gets courage.
Now you got all this down in your head.
I do it as a part of my folklore sometimes.
And everything like that. It's all.
It's a part of the stories of the family that's passed down through the family.
What a movie it would
Thank you. So what happened? Yeah, it would make a great
Spielberg
movie.
could do a movie.
But what's really great is at this point she gets her courage and she says to him, "You say that I'm not a slave?" And he says, "You're no slave or whatever." She said, "Let me tell you, then my children be my slaves." So she and the Africans run out and they find the boys. And they found them in a ditch, up in a ditch, hiding on the bank of a ditch, eating red
I remember you and
clay
Stokely hiding under a ditch. Didn't you and Stokely
That wasn't Stokely. It was sitting up under the ditch was me and Tim Jenkins. We were sitting really out on the ditch. We were sitting under a bridge. And Stokely was coming into town.
Yeah.
We were sitting, this was at Liberty, Mississippi.
You were just a kid then, right?
Liberty, Mississippi.
Really.
I was just young. I was in my early 20s.
Yeah, right.
In fact, that was my 22nd year, but I would be celebrating in a few days.
But you were hiding under a bridge somewhere.
So we hid under the bridge because Bob Moses could not be seen at Liberty. He was not allowed in Liberty. And he brought in several carloads of folk to try and register to vote there in the county courthouse. And so Bob made assignments. Tim and I, since Tim wanted to be a lawyer, he was a Yale law student. And we protected people in the movement. We would protect people, especially those who want to be lawyers, because we knew blacks needed lawyers. So the whole idea was that Tim would take me and we would go hide under the bridge. Now, Tim was my boyfriend, so we didn't mind hiding under the bridge.
Right, I understand. I understand. Say no more. Yeah, right.
So we're peeking out, and Stokely's coming in from. We couldn't see him on one side coming because right in the center there is the courthouse. So we see him once he's emerged around the courthouse, and there's Stokely and the sheriff. And Stokely has on a pair of Bermuda shorts with these tall socks. And
was he talking?
And with another brother named Edith Green out of Greenwood, Mississippi. And the sheriff is raising holy hell. What the hell you doing here naked all around women? You get the hell out of here. So he forces Stokely to walk back out of town.
The man was a riot, Mr. Stokely. I loved him with the best. Absolutely riot, man.
My brother. So he's like, so he and the force of the two of them had to walk back out. It was even more funny because parked on one side was CBS, I believe. They had a truck, and there was one of the, like these vans. This is
CBS television.
CBS television.
Right.
And this is kind of funny because this was remember when these big van things are just started? And they got some kind of a curtain pulled across the window, as if the white folk can't see them. And so there's the U.S. Civil Rights Commission, which had no powers other than to come in and investigate. They got a curtain across the window.
Now wait a minute, let's get a date on this. Can you get a date on this?
This is 1962.
62 early. Freedom Riders started to come and all that. We're just getting started. Summer of 62. Early stuff. For most people.
And so everybody was presuming that they could be seen. And Tim and I were laughing because anybody could see you could be seen. So years later, when I looked at Snoopy, it must have been in the 70s when I saw that little cartoon with Snoopy and the blanket. He's got the blanket up saying, "Nobody sees me."
Reminiscent of the old days.
So the cops actually, the sheriff went there and they pulled the people from the U.S. Civil Rights Commission out of their van. So it was a hot day.
So your roots go way back.
Go back. So that's on the indigenous side, on my mother's my mother's maternal side. So they claim to have been here since the beginning of time.
Right.
But they would tell you when pushed. My grandmother would say, "My people be African too." Which we always found very striking. What she wanted to say to you is that there was some others who would come in. If you do the Memphis travel tour, and I think this is what Memphis travel tour, black travel tour.
I don't know. Go ahead.
It documents Memphis slavery and when Africans came in recent history. But one of the things you'll note is when they got ready to name the city of Memphis, when these three white brothers got together, decided they were going to form
Memphis
and incorporate
Egypt,
Memphis.
We're going.
They didn't have a name for it then. The name wasn't Memphis. They were just incorporated the town.
Right.
But the wife of one of them was an indigenous woman.
Right.
And she said, why don't you call it after the name of those people who came here long time ago. And they said it was the same as their city, so they named it Memphis.
I'll be darned.
Which would have been the Greek hour of Egyptian, what we know today is modern Egyptian history.
Right.
All right, that would have been the Greek hour. So it's a very interesting phenomenon that you go Memphis and you go up to Cairo, you come back down to Little Egypt and Mississippi. I mean, these names that are given. So for her to say that her people be Africa too.
Yeah.
And that her children would grow in the bloodstreams of powerful black nations. That's how she saw her world.
Well, okay.
So it's in the family. The family has stories, but today I want to talk about...
Yes, by all means, we ought to talk about maybe we need a new constitution or something
to
get over
we need a constitutional convention.
Yeah, I think
where all of the players held at the table. You see, the assumption is that Africans can just be handed something.
Yeah.
But America's Constitution is grounded in slavery.
That's right. You've got to understand that.
It's grounded in slavery.
This nation was founded as a slave nation.
Yes, a slaveocracy.
And represented slavery as an institution.
So the republic was a slaveocracy. It's not a democracy. So when we began to look at that, and I began to think about it, I also reflect on the fact that the whites who were here, that is the majority white population, not the British,
they were damn near slaves. They were damn near slaves.
They were slaves.
They were indentured. They were indentured, yeah.
And those who were indentured, and there were those who were not.
Yeah.
So when you began to look at that, you know, Georgia colony is not indentured. Georgia colony is prisoners.
They're prisoners.
They're prisoners.
Oglethorpe. Yeah.
And so when we began to look at that, and we asked about, and you go back, you begin to study from the Articles of Confederation forward.
Right.
Which was more honest. Back to those Articles of Confederation, there was some honest that people were really beginning to believe the lie they sold about revolution. That was a lie. It was designed in order to get the French Navy, in order to also to develop some understanding among British people about why they were breaking off. So this nation,
they were breaking off from Europe. Maybe it was a break. It
was a break from England.
Yeah, from England.
Not from Europe. From England. Because they needed the French.
Yeah, right.
So when you look at the movements of Benjamin Franklin, the movements of Jefferson Davis, all of this is about diplomacy and how to, one, give some appeal to the British, but certainly a direct appeal to a revolutionizing France. So the words of democracy and revolution and all of this stuff makes an appeal. Now McElwain and his study of this breakaway nation really does a very fine job. His story, McElwain, began to talk about the selling of this piece, because it was a sale. So half-truths. Half-truths.
Yeah.
You know, what was King George really guilty of? You know, half-truths.
Yeah.
But you needed those half-truths.
To make a case.
Yeah, you needed this beautiful written language, it's well written, so that you could get this emerging revolutionary group in France. You needed that navy.
You needed that support.
You needed that navy in order to help to blockade the British. Otherwise, you're like the Spanish and the British, and your butt's going to be whipped.
So they made it a thing, and we try to get that. That's the Constitution. We do that. We have all that kind of thing that we pledge allegiance to and so forth. And what we're pledging allegiance to, in a certain sense, is a country that was based upon institutional structures whose time has ran out in our time. And we need a new grounding constitution by something other than a constitution that advocated and was based upon the institution and recognition, legitimacy of slavery.
Right.
We haven't gotten over that yet.
But
we
also,
haven't gotten over that.
Even though we include in that constitution some respect in language for the indigenous populations.
Yeah, well,
we know how unreal that is, because by 1803, DeWitt Clinton is massacring everything in New York State.
Absolutely. Yeah, they never kept a single treaty they made. I don't think.
That's correct.
Yeah,
that's
they
correct.
Didn't have to because they were stronger.
1887.
Yeah.
And Michael Moore, and I want not Michael Moore, not Michael Moore. No.
Travis.
I got to come back to Michael Moore.
Yeah, we want to get to Michael
Moore.
But
1887, it's not Michael Moore. It's the philosopher, the other philosopher.
I'm not sure.
I'll come back to him.
Okay.
Getting old, folk.
Yeah.
But he quotes
girl.
George Washington as having said, and direct quote from George Washington, and I'm going to paraphrase it, that this nation. This new republic, its goals was to move across land, killing the wolf and the savage, all the way to the West Coast, because this was a nation founded for essentially the British and white folk.
Yeah, manifest
from the beginning. And Jefferson, he goes to each one of them. He gets quotes from all of them. Each one of them, essentially, even though they might say, I don't like the way you put that, It's kind of put it kind of rough there, George, but this is what we're about.
Yeah, right.
So the nation was never founded to be a democracy. It was founded and grounded in genocide and slavery. Genocide against the natives and pure genocide, and against the Africans in the sense that we were stripped of everything we had. So the genocide here was a menticidal genocide.
Right. That's right. That's right. True.
But also
now the time for that kind of social order has run out.
Well, it ran out. Roosevelt ran it out. Franklin Delano Roosevelt.
But you're talking about we need
economic Bill of Rights reflected on the history of it. You know, let's go back. We need an economic Bill of Rights. This is the last year of his life, by the way.
We're talking we need an economic Bill of Rights. We need a new constitution.
Right. We needed the Constitution.
A new platform upon which we're going to start.
Right, but his way to approach that was, well, you know, we need an economic Bill of Rights, because that initial Bill of Rights does not fit this age. We have come too far since then. We've gone through so much that the nation has changed. But now,
like I was saying to you earlier, 1,000 years after Rome, it was hereditary families that was the basis of political legitimacy. That ran out after about 1,000 years. There was an Enlightenment, there was an industrial revolution coming, and a new order was called for. They brought it here to the United States of America in a truncated way, and that was based upon slavery.
Yes,
it was that, and the institutions were still there. We've now come to an end of where that's a makeshift system that we did, a bridge between the end of hereditary families of Europe and so forth, or other parts of the world, and the future which is dawning has to be made now. And we've come to the end of that transitional period, and we need a new constitution to reflect the new emerging reality in the future that might be a liberated, honest-to-God, democratic, appropriate way of organizing human society, rather than all of the outdated institutions that were makeshift things that we had to do to get through from one period to another historically.
Yeah, it would also mean another economic system. But
the economic system and the political are joined at the hip. Yeah.
Something that Roosevelt did to talk about would be ending imperialism. All of those things. And I think this is where we are, because the revolt that we see happening here with young people in the streets is happening all over the world. It's not just happening here.
No, that's true. That's absolutely true.
It's happening all around this world.
Yeah.
It's happening particularly in Britain and France.
Now it's linking back to 62. 63. I mean, this thing is linking back to Mississippi.
Of course.
To that house of yours where they got a thing up that makes it a thing.
The salute is to the entire family.
It's going back to you're going back before the beginning of the civil rights movement that is characteristic of what's emerging now.
Yeah, but time for me is there is, you know,
you're a pioneer, darling.
We live in a world where we create time as from moment to moment.
Yeah.
Time operates on a continuum. It doesn't go away.
Thank you.
I love the Africans who don't believe in anything called the future. Time does not have a future.
Okay.
Time has a present and a past.
Okay.
So you come from the present, from the past to the present, and you go back. So it's always there. It's not secular.
That's interesting to me. They don't have a future.
No, there's no future. The Egyptians would say,
that's interesting.
Yeah, that's a fantasy.
That's interesting.
But you live in the present.
Yeah,
I don't live devoid of my parent.
Yeah.
I don't live devoid of my grandparent in their time and my great-grandparent. We're sitting there talking about what? The continuum on which I live.
Well,
that is connected to what? To all of those ancestors I can remember. And when you no longer remember them, doesn't mean they have disappeared.
They're still
because they are there. They are there as a part of your genetical makeup.
Yeah,
they are there as a part of your historic experiences.
Yeah, that's right. And we're part of a larger organization of life forms on this planet.
That's correct. Yeah. And we're all connected to it. So for the African, there is no distinction between us and for the indigenous people too, in animal life, or the rocks.
Yeah.
I haven't seen the indigenous do it with the rocks, but I love the way the Africans do it with the rock. And I had a very interesting experience at Troy last year when the youth from Echo Socialist Rise.
Troy, not Troy, New York.
Troy, New York.
Troy, New York. Yeah,
and Joel Cavell. They had this great convergence at Troy, New York. It was absolutely beautiful.
Really? When?
It was beautiful.
2013.
It was 2012.
2012.
Yeah.
Okay. And you You went.
Last year, actually, I was on the road running through those icy mountains in Vermont with Eco-Socialist Horizon. Those young people are doing some powerful
You're
work.
an eco-socialist?
Sure, I'm an eco-socialist.
Okay.
I've been formed in eco-socialism.
I might know you'd be out on that progressive end of things and everything, but making trouble again, huh, girl?
I got to go to Gaddafi route.
No,
You can't go to Gaddafi route unless you're an eco-socialist.
Gaddafi, God bless Gaddafi.
No, he's all right. He's all right. He's winning.
Yeah, winning.
Gaddafi's
Gaddafi's vision is winning?
He's winning because if you look at what's happening to Libya, you can't do it. You just can't go in and destroy people that think you just run over it.
Yeah,
place is total chaos.
Yeah, that kind of thing's been going on. But talk about Troy.
But at the Troy convergence, I was talking with young people. They always sing this little piece. I run to the rock, hide my face. Rock cried out, no hide in place. There's no hide in place, down da. There's no hide in place, down da. Rock cry out, I'm burning too. I want to go to heaven just like you. So anyway,
is that a song?
It's a song.
Yeah,
it's an African slave song.
Sing
It's all done in the African dialect.
Oh, really?
But for people to understand it,
where is that from?
Now I know where it's from.
From where?
It's from the Igbo region of Nigeria.
Oh, wow, okay, Igbo,
So the Igbo were
down
here.
on the coast,
And it's a powerful story.
Yeah, okay.
Because the Igbo were running one tribe from the other. I don't know who was doing what.
Well, they have
three major really tribes, a very major war going on. And they hid in the rock. But if you're in the rock, you got all the substance of life in the rock. Not only is it a shelter, food's in the rock.
What food is in a rock?
That grows up. Water's in the rock. Everything is there in the rock.
Well, okay.
So you're in the rocks. I mean, you're hidden inside what?
Well,
a rock structure.
Well, okay.
But the ground is still there.
Yeah.
And you're
true.
inside here, right?
Yeah.
But the problem came when the British showed up with them damn guns. So you could hide in there and fight your brothers. And there's also, if you look at the miners, strike in South Africa, they're in the rock. They're hiding in the rock. But when you got those damn cannons, you blow away the rock. So you have this first song. We got a series of the songs. One where the rock embraces you.
That's Igbo?
I think it's all Igbo.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
You got this one piece where it embraces you, where the rock is your strength and your shelter. That one song.
That one you just sang.
No, that's not about strength and your shelter. That's what this couple said, don't hide in place down there.
Yeah.
Because they're blowing you out, they're blowing the rock apart.
Because of the cannon.
Yes, they're shooting the rock apart.
Yeah.
But in the prayer songs, you get just like the Rock of Ages piece.
Oh, right.
Where the rock is your strength and your salvation.
That's another one, rock. Yeah,
and when you're hiding in the rock shields you. But oh Lord, the day came when those cannons started flying, and there's no hiding place down there.
Boy, you talking
so
like
the
Igbo.
rock cries out, I'm burning too.
You been living over there ever, Nigeria and that? Or
no, I've never been in Nigeria.
You never been there, but you picked it up.
Want to go to heaven just like you. No, I grew up in Mississippi.
All right.
I grew up in Congo land.
That's interesting because there was that thing there. You Santeria, you got in Cuba and stuff like that.
We got all the religions. The religions converge. And my group is a very interesting group. We're talking about the indigenous side, but where I come from, they're the Palestinians. So we got Palestine
You're
Road.
talking Mississippi now.
Talking Mississippi. I'm talking about Jackson area. Right outside Hinds County. The county that houses Jackson. So you get Palestine Road, you get Jordan Road, you get the Shorty Rand's brother-in-law coming in to live there, you got the Germans there, you got the Dutch there, you got the British there, you got the Irish there, you got the Scots there. And if you come into the city of Jackson, you get the Jews.
I'll be damned. Okay.
Everybody's there. Nobody ever talks about the history of this country in that way. So you see it. You see all of these influences. And if you go to Zoo Bolton, Mississippi, which is German. Meanwhile, I'm born in a Dutch house.
Who have you contracted to do the screenplay for this movie that you're
I don't know. We got to get together and talk about it.
You get somebody to make that screenplay. What you've been talking about would be a hell of a movie.
I think so.
It could be a hell of a movie, right?
I think so.
And you're recounting that anyway. So yeah, go ahead. So anyway, there is that in the rock and all that, but. Okay, maybe we should bring it up today. You've been there from the beginning of the civil rights and everything like that, and it's coming. And this recent incarnation of everything that's coming out with Ferguson, and with the Can't Breathe,
Yeah, the very recent.
There's something new emerging. and it's moving through our streets and it's moving through that. It has to do with police. It has to do with guns. Has to do, as you bring it up, with Medgar saying we need a new constitution, looking at a larger thing that's called for out of all this. So all of that is grist for the mill of talking about what in the world's going on and how do you read it.
Yeah, we have to go back to
please do
to Louisiana.
Okay.
The incident that happened there under the tree at the school.
Now talk to me. I don't.
So there's an incident under the tree, and I don't have the clarity, the total clarity of that incident now in place, but John Conyers had 2 judiciary hearings on it because the incident with some young people at the school.
When?
This had been right after Katrina.
After Katrina.
So Katrina, what, 2006, 2007?
Something like
time
that.
Is
I
moving,
guess it was. Yeah, I guess it was. Yeah.
And so an incident at a school, and the children under a tree, and something about the lynch rope or some crazy
about
stuff.
The what?
Or lynch rope or something with the tree. So we get a major movement that happens. Overnight you get, depending on whose records you get, whether it's 30,000 or 90,000 young people from around the United States converging on this small area of Louisiana.
Okay, I mean, okay.
You remember when it was happening because it was so popular. It was just in the DJs.
And the issue was around what now?
An incident that had to do with a tree.
Yeah.
At a schoolyard.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether it was a lynch rope or speaking of a lynch rope.
A strange fruit kind
yeah,
of.
It was kind of something, but the black youth were going off. And there was fights on the school ground and
Okay.
But it brought all of a sudden overnight. There was just boom.
Right.
Busloads of people were headed into this little town in Louisiana.
That's touching
this
into
is
a lot
right
of
after
deep
Katrina.
feelings,
So I think we have to start with Katrina.
Okay.
Katrina and the youth who on their own decided to wade in that chemical-filled, mud-filled, deadly alligators and whatever else to get boats for their families.
Yeah, right.
When the
it was so
when George
You're
Bush,
doing a great job, Brownie, Mr. Bush said.
Yes, when George Bush was refusing to give them anything.
Yeah, right.
When the Red Cross would not even give them water and said we can't give you water.
I got you.
Right, so it starts
I got you. Okay.
So that spirit, I think, is beginning to sweep the nation.
Okay, right. Yeah.
So we get a string of it down Trayvon Martin. We just come to a string.
Right.
The young man that was shot here at his wedding.
Yeah.
I mean, you get these strings of incidents.
Rodney King, for that matter.
Rodney King, the 92. That's right.
And that's video and everything.
And that was like, I'll never forget Albany, New York. We was hundreds of us just going through the streets, rolling through the streets, not knowing that hanging on a post not far from us was a man named Joseph Cohen, 28 years old, lynched at Albany, New York, the night that the Rodney King event.
Not really. Is that true fact?
And he had.
I didn't know
It was a television show on it.
Okay, yeah.
One of those true-to-life television shows. And I think that show must have lasted about half a year before they cut it off the air.
I'll be damned.
But
on network television.
I'll bring you the tape. I have the tapes for that one.
Good.
So what I'm saying is, Rodney King is a good place to go back to because the spirit of that movement seems to be moving across this land and
the absurdity of it.
The
absurdity that goes on with other names.
And for cops who don't know how to fight, cops who don't know how to control individual.
And the political leaders who set the tone for the cops.
A cop who don't know how to control a 12-year-old boy. A cop who doesn't know how to control a sleeping little girl, 7 years old, lying in her bed, shot to death. Why?
Yeah. And the leadership that informs those people is not able to come up with an appropriate at a policy level or at any other level, understanding how we're going to deal with this inadequacy of what the system has come to be.
Right, they're trying to hold on to something that
they're trying to hold on to something
that the technology and the media of our time period has already destroyed.
That's like history moves on. It moves on. The history moves on.
So it's like the racist across the country. Who's trying to hold on to the children who are saying, look, Mom, I don't want to be that.
Yeah, and all that bigotry.
And the black mama who's saying, Mom, I don't want to do what you're doing. I ain't crawling around no more. I don't have to smile at white folk. So we're having this kind of a movement taking place, and the young people say to me all the time, oh, Grandma, you can't say that because I go to school with white kids, we're all right.
Your young people in your life say that to you.
My grandchildren would tell me in a minute that, Grandmama, you can't say that.
Why would they?
Why challenges? Because but I'm talking about the racism. Yeah. They're saying, look, there may be racism, but in our lives with the young people that we're growing up with, that's a dead dog.
Really? Now, what does that tell us about the youth?
I think it tells us something.
That the race thing is over?
They're not saying it's over.
No,
they're saying, though, that there is a new day that they're bringing up.
Well, what are they saying that new day harbinger of it for the people who've been oppressed and been enslaved and people who've been badly served?
I don't think they understand that, and that is a part of.
They don't see themselves that way as the way people might have been.
Most of these young people, but all these years now, beginning to see themselves as something called American, and that's the danger.
Have they been co-opted?
In many ways. In the ways they've been co-opted, but in other ways, they bring a new reality to us.
Okay.
In terms of new ways of talking about how, that's why I said we need a Constitutional Convention, to really develop a nation of laws where all the players are at the table.
They may have a glimmer or look at a thing that is emerging, and I don't know, you said that
that there may be possibilities.
The Igbo said they didn't talk about the future, there's no future or something, but there might be a future that's dawning. There might be a future that is dawning.
But there's a presence that's dawning. In the presence in which they live, there's a new presence that's dawning with a new reality.
And what is the reality?
The reality is we are going to be, I think, internationalized worldwide.
Because
the young people
are we going to be internationalized with justice? Or is there going to be justice rolled down ever?
The question is, do we have to have a bloody damn war to do it?
Well,
I see it in this country, and I tell my son all the time, we should prepare ourselves, because I see this stiff divide between left and right. And we can see it. I mean, I was on the phone with somebody about a birth certificate, and the man insulted, racist insult on the telephone, you know? Nicely done. I was like, well, where the hell did that come from? Yeah. So you began to look, though, somebody in the mall just right up and go to attacking people. Yeah. And these were young people in this case. Yeah. But then if you began to talk with whites, you feel this bitterness. Generally in my age group and older.
Wait a minute. The whites have bitterness on their tongue?
Well, whites are somewhat. I'm talking about most whites now.
Some of them are bigots, you know?
Yeah, they are bigots.
Yeah, bigots. That's
but
the
I'm
term
saying, you know,
Eric
but they're trying to
Broner's
hold it. And you just like, you say, oh man, this person is angry. I don't know this person. They don't know me. We meet in time. I'm on my way somewhere, they're on their way somewhere, and yet the bigotry is clear. On the other hand, another group of whites in my age group are doing the over thing. Like, hi, how are you? What a pretty little girl, you know, and I like black people kind of thing. You know, you're like, oh, damn. But it's good. But I think it's all good. Because we have to work this thing through. Anything that change has never been easy. It has never been flower beds of ease. It comes at a great price. And I think if we got common sense, can make the change without having to have mass murder.
That's what's worrying, is the mass murder thing. And also the reaction of the entrenched interests that would just get their back up in a way that could be just massively destructive.
Well, their backs are going to be up because they've got to give up a whole lot. Michael Moore.
Michael Moore.
I love Michael Moore.
I do too.
And he says Ghana's crime was selling untaxed cigarettes instead of derivatives and junk mortgages.
Yeah, right.
Selling untaxed cigarettes instead of derivatives and junk mortgages. Now his crime, Ghana's crime, has no major impact on our economy.
No, none at all. Yeah, no.
But when you're selling derivatives and junk bonds, what?
Yeah.
These mortgages that has sunk the economy permanently.
Well, yeah, right.
You know, that has affected all of us. So you're looking at a powerful strike by a small group of folk against the nation. That includes Schumer. And when we began to look at Glass-Steagall, and, you know, we began to talk about deregulation, these are powerful strikes against the nation.
Well, they are things, I don't know.
That's Chuck Schumer, folk, the senator.
Chuck Schumer from New York, When Mr. Obama was elected, I was very happy the day that happened and everything like that. And when I just finished reading who is it, Geithner, Timothy Geithner's book on stress test. It made you sort of understand. And he came into office and so on. And that speech he gave in Chicago, Grant Park or wherever, after he'd been elected, it was one, they're going to be tough and everything. And back up a little bit in time and so forth like that, too, to Mr. Roosevelt. Franklin Roosevelt came in, and there had been this horrible depression.
Yes.
There were 40% unemployment and all the rest of it. We know it was just absolute devastation. And his major role then was to save capitalism.
That's right.
Now,
I don't think we can argue about that.
Mr. Obama was confronted with the same thing. The major role that the leadership of the world had was to save capitalism.
Yes.
They've managed to save capitalism. A lot of people who are talking about need to have something new and liberating for everybody and everything don't particularly want to save capitalism with all the derivatives and swaps and everything that they do, if you understand what I'm saying. They would like to get rid of it and set up a system where there's universal justice and so forth. But is it true that, let's say in the workings of history or intellectually understanding, that it was important? And one last thing, Mr. Krugman, Paul Krugman, writes for the New York Times, right? And he just did a program, he just did an article, and he's been a very strong critic of Mr. Obama. And it came out in this last election. The House just was run over by these Tea Party oriented people. Yes. It seems to me like just absurd, Tea Party Republicanism. But Mr. Krugman was a great critic of Mr. Obama, leading to a lack of enthusiasm for the man because everything isn't been able to be done. But he said now that he thinks Krugman, he's joined CUNY, Graduate Center, rather than Princeton. He's moved. Krugman has.
Oh, so it's come down to the people.
And he said that he thinks that he said he was one of the greatest critics of him, on issue after issue, that he's not strong like he should be and stand up. But he said he thinks he may be marked, Obama might be marked as one of our truly formative, foremost transformative presidents in the history of the country, right with Lincoln and Roosevelt, in terms of his input on things, and that he's a major historical figure. So that's some of the context that maybe these youth you're talking about are. There may be something emerging out of this context. And was it necessary to save capitalism in terms of the things that Geithner and Sumner's and Mr. Obama participated in? And they did save it. It's now coming back. Or should we have just let it go?
I think we should just let it go. We're wasting our time. Well, Roosevelt, at the end of his life, when he brought forth the Economic Bill of Rights.
Well, okay.
We got to be clear now. He moved beyond the New Deal.
Well,
he moved to a point where he said that this nation should provide an income, adequate income for everybody in it. That didn't come from the Civil Rights Movement. That is from Franklin Delano Roosevelt.
He got the Social Security in 35.
One group after the other. He went down the line. Beginning, he included farmers, and for the first time, he included black people, because Negroes, in quotes, was not included in his New Deal. New Deal wasn't for Negroes. But in the next round, in the round where he dies, he sends that bill to Congress, and I guess they buried it under somewhere there, but did go to Congress, the Economic Bill of Rights. And I think we've got to appreciate him for that, because he comes to a point where he says, the nation has come to this point. We got to make some changes.
Well, he did,
because we're living a new reality, but he didn't say let's end imperialism.
Well, okay, the imperialism.
But that might have been coming too.
Well, that would be. He is by the sages who think success. The major thing they did was save capitalism.
Right.
From utter collapse.
That's correct.
And what you did not want, or you're saying let it go, or people might say let's let it go, because there are I
say let it grow, so that it includes everybody.
Well, that's different
if
than
everybody can get some capital,
well,
share equally in the benefit.
Yeah, But he did get Social Security.
Social Security was there, yeah.
That was something for the older people. You know, it took decades for it to go into effect. It's slow moving. Mr.
But he
Obama,
also got public housing. The first public housing was the place that I organized in Chicago, Jane Addams' Homes.
Yeah, okay, yeah,
1938.
Right. Well enough, Jane Addams was great, yeah.
Yeah, but so, I mean, a lot of stuff was coming down too, because he saw reality. The reality was the nation was going from farm to what?
Yeah,
to urban.
To urban, that was going.
And that was manufacturing age had changed the whole world.
Yeah.
The car, this mobile unit,
that was
had
Detroit.
changed the world. I mean, yes, you know.
Yeah, that was when I was young. It was Detroit. It was just gorgeous. It was sixth of the economy.
Yes.
And they also were the arsenal of democracy when you had to fight the fascists in Europe in the second. But anyway, the point being is this idea of there being something, the saving capitalism. Is that an appropriate thing for the world leadership to do, or would it be better to set?
The world
when we talk about something new, do we want to get rid of capitalism?
Yes,
or we want to get rid of the private sector, the banks, and everything, or do we keep the private sector and the public sector in tension with one another? And why do we applaud the presidents who major thing in terms of Great Depression and so forth is saving capitalism?
Well, I think that
rather than letting it go into what, some socialist thing where everything's in the government, or what's the alternative?
We look at it only in terms of saving capitalism, but he saved this nation from revolution.
Well,
the revolution didn't occur because the people were moving everywhere. Remember, folk were throwing out the houses, communities were organized and throwing them back in.
Yeah.
They were fighting with sheriffs, they were fighting with whoever came with their posses.
Right.
So we have to remember that Roosevelt, there was a lot of other stuff happening too, because it's a Dust Bowl and a lot of other stuff is happening at the same time. So
well, that's true.
there's constant movement around this country at that same time.
Right.
Folk appoint milking ditches rather than give it to children.
Yeah, right.
You know,
that's true. Yeah,
killing up animals and burning them rather than feed people. So all of these things are happening. We were standing on the verge of a major revolution that might have been a good thing. I don't know.
Well, that's the thing. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. So
is change something that happens by throwing out? Or there's an old saying, you don't want to throw the baby out with the bath. And so you got a historical thing going. We're going through a real change. The kids are telling you something different than you and I might think about past, and that there's a new kind of thing emerging, and that old way of seeing things is outdated and everything. But those presidents that have been most respected have, certain a sense, vouchsafed the historically inherited institutional structure.
That's right.
And is that a function that is responsible in the fullest sense of the word? And if you just have anarchy, it would be horrible.
No, you can't have that.
If you had all and out anarchy and you just broke it down, or the people who are on the left want to have socialism. They would like to have everything be in the government, do away with the private sector, do away with the bankers. But it would seem to be that the system would not you have to have both, or do
Well, I think you're always going to have some form of capital.
If we're going to form a new constitutional...
You got to have some form of capital. I don't think you can put permanently. That's why I like Gaddafi. I don't think you can permanently move away from that.
Gaddafi was ahead of the curve, perhaps.
Far. The Green Book is far ahead of the curve.
I think so.
But
that's why we had to kill him, I guess. I don't know.
No doubt about it. He had to go.
The bigoted reactionary forces that are going to just keep with the worst aspects of what's inherited are getting in the way of what was an example of which was the thing Gaddafi had in terms of sharing some ownership of the capital assets that are responsible for production with the people as a way of distributing demand rather than just labor.
And bringing Africa into the system.
Well, the African into the system as well, with Mandela
saying, look,
and all that.
What he's saying is that, look, we can care for ourselves as a continent. We're going to move to a gold currency.
That's right. That's something that was worrying.
Because we ain't got nothing but gold, diamonds, rubies, and other stuff too. But we got gold and platinum galore. So that satellite put in the heavens, that satellite that Algeria is supposed to be putting up in a couple of years now, that would just give Africa everything it needed. So the move was against Africa, and Gaddafi's thrust towards saying, look, we need something new. There's an old spiritual that says, my soul needs something that's new. And planet Earth needs something that's new.
I think that's true, don't you?
Yeah, no doubt about it. We need something that's new.
Now, how do we deal with the past? How do we deal with the outdated thought patterns, the outdated institutional structures, the nation state, the banks, all of these things that have come out of a future?
The nation state is, as you say, is a modern thing.
It's more, last couple, 300 years.
That's right. It's a modern thing. These are all new things. When I look, I always look through the African eyes and what happened to the African.
Yeah.
They brought us here.
Yeah.
They brought us on the boats. Yeah. Some of us was in the islands. Some of us Central and South America. Some of us Canada, wherever.
Right.
They could toss us and use us, and back and forth even after then. If we acted up here, they'd send me to Brazil.
And that has been probably characteristic of a lot of the time during the crowned heads of Europe and so forth too. The people were wallowing around in the mud with slave-like fealty to the people who ran everything.
That's right.
People.
So don't see themselves as owners of food.
Yeah, that's right. That's the history of the world.
But the African and this thing called nationalism.
Yeah, okay. Well, that was different.
So now we get this thing called nationalism. It's difficult for me oftentimes, not only language issues. So I'm talking with somebody, say, I'm from Jamaica.
You're not from Jamaica. You're from Mississippi.
I'm not. I'm from Africa. So is he.
Listen, girl, we're all African.
Yeah, but I say but we get this nation-state thing.
Yeah.
Early on, we got the region thing. The people were in other parts of the world.
Yeah.
So, but we look now at this, and I look at it. I think I'm trying to remember the beautiful Jamaican musician that did reggae. I think he's
Marley?
the one. I think Marley is the
Yellow
one.
Man. I like Yellow Man.
So when I'm in Jamaica, I'm a Jamaican. When I'm in
Jamaica's great.
When I'm in Barbados, I'm a Barbadian. When I'm in Mississippi, I'm Mississippi. No, we are Africans.
Yeah.
Recent. I'm talking about recent history.
Right.
600 years is very recent history.
Yes. True.
And to see us now not knowing each other as being the same. We had that Garvey moment where we came together, which was crushed. So we're now back to having to start all over again of saying, if you're in Brazil, you're still black and you're one of me. And we have another group over here saying, well, I'm Latin. And so I don't want to associate with anybody. I don't even want to have a racial name.
Divide and conquer.
Yeah, maybe. Nationalism is a dividing and conquering experience.
But that's been the that's the modern experience.
So we're getting look at that. And so as we begin now to move away to a new world order, and I mean a real new world order, it means collapsing all of that madness, bringing it to a close.
Subsuming it, right?
I don't know, Brian, to do something with it.
We may be coming to an all-time wake-up moment, Jubilee
I think it's
time.
a wake-up moment.
I mean, not just another thing like French Revolution, but a coming to the end of something where it's a wake-up moment where the universal justice
we become
for
humans
all.
at last. Dr. King talked about Dr. King talked about Christianism.
No,
we become
humans.
We
might be actually coming to that moment.
Humans, and I think we are, because when I'm online now, I'm talking with people out of France. I'm talking with people out of Britain.
Right.
I mean, they're signing on to whatever it is, the projects we're working on. They're trying to save the thing that we all need to be talking about. The thousands upon tens of thousands of young children that are taken every year in this nation, in Britain and France. Nobody knows what happens to them.
What do you mean taken? What are you talking about? Thousands of youth. I don't understand. What are you talking about?
They're missing children.
They're whating?
Missing children.
Missing children? Is that true?
Okay. Harold, I'll send you some myself. I've been doing a lot of work with it online and posting and everything. They are missing children in every hue and color of the rainbow, and that's happening as you and I speak. From the baby and the arm upward, they just disappear.
Okay, no, I'm sorry. I'm really chagrined.
No, because
I don't know what you're
our media
talking about.
doesn't even tell us that our children are missing by the tens of thousands.
What children from which class? From where?
From all classes.
Now that's news to me.
From all classes.
Can you send me some links?
I'm going to send you all kinds of links.
I want to know about
And then
that.
I'm going to send you the Father's Liberation Army. Well, men in this country are beginning to say, hey, look, the courts are abusing us. I'm going to send you all of it, because what's happening, there's a humanizing taking place from the underside.
You mean they're taking children away from people that can't afford to keep them or something?
No. What happens is women go to court and they sue. Those are happening too.
Yeah.
But children are being snatched.
Snatched by whom?
Nobody seems to know. Our government can't keep up with drugs. But you think they'd be able to keep up with a missing child?
Yes, I would.
Or find a missing
by all
child.
means. It would make
They can't.
They
don't.
Who's snatching them for what purpose?
Nobody knows.
Okay, send me links.
I hear people say, they're sex trafficking them. I hear people say they're using them for body parts. You have all kinds of stuff. But children in this country are in extreme danger.
I'll be.
Native children in Canada are in extreme danger.
Oh, like Arlette, like that fellow from our friend from that's on Fred Brass.
Kevin,
yes. Yeah, he's a great guy. He's talking about.
But the sisters
that
out of
was in
Canada,
the past.
the sisters out of Canada are begging for our help because there's mass rape of indigenous women.
Oh my God. Okay, I didn't. Okay.
You know, see this other stuff that's hidden because our media does not bring us the news.
Oh, right.
We need the news.
Well,
MNN brings the news.
They do indeed.
Unfortunately, we can't do that in the regular hour where we are hourly.
I saw
saying to the world.
I saw the son of Garvey the other day on MNN.
Yes.
He's there. He's working. He's the son of Garvey. He was giving a talk on MNN.
Yes.
MNN's a place where they could
I
carry
met them at SUNY Albany. When did we do this? Must have been 87, 88.
Yeah.
When they had the first Garvey conference since his disappearance.
He's talking about the great civilizations of Sudan and all that. It was really an interesting talk he gave about that, and everything. But this thing about okay, I'm sorry, you got off on something else. I didn't know anything.
But when I see the killing, that's anybody. That's why I say we take the guns from the cops.
Yeah.
Because this need to just shoot and kill.
Yeah, right.
It has to do also with nobody having a love for your neighbor's child.
Okay, that's something to be said for that and everything, and that's happening to young people. Yeah,
yes, if you go on Facebook, you'll notice on my site, you'll see postings of occasionally all over the place about missing children. But indigenous populations, I have the Apache.
Yeah, really?
All of them are coming back, and I'm so happy to greet them online.
Yeah, okay, they're coming back. Okay, so you can join up with them, and and that's been going on in spades with some of the indigenous countries.
And these people are working around.
Did you know Jaka Jawea?
No.
No, Jaka Jawea was a friend. He and his brother Gonorrhea. They were two that Ramsey Clark got them out of. He was at Attica when they had the.
I know what you're talking about now.
And then he became the the League of Indigenous Sovereign Nations, North America, South America. They're Indian peoples and everything. Great guy and everything.
Those are the ones that Gaddafi had every year in Libya.
I think so. They would have those kind of people.
He had the indigenous tribes every year from all over the world.
And Gaddafi was up for having people be able to have ownership of a corporation that they're part of. The stock ownership as a way of distributing. That's the same thing that Mr. Piketty, or Piketty. Thomas Piketty, all the people of the world, the leaders are reading it because they got an ability to bring life support to everybody in a way with the technological development, but with the morphing of that productive process to not only information, but also robotics. The people whose job has been to have a job on the estate laying all the bricks and things that had to be built is now being undercut, and they don't have a way of getting income to people, because the only way they can think of people as getting income is to be having a job on the estate where all the assets are owned by a tiny plutocratic class, and they got to get some sort of a way of
not a job, a job.
A job. Well, you call it appropriately that. I mean, I've always thought those people.
I learned that in the North when I came to New York.
Thank you.
One of my country, I had two contributions. In Chicago, I learned what an alley apple was.
A what?
An alley apple.
Alley apple. I don't know.
That's a brick.
Alley apple. I never heard of that.
I'm
learning, girl. I'm learning.
Teach with an alley apple.
Teach.
And then in New York, I learned what a job was.
A job is
long suffering, and I thought about, how cute.
Thank you. I think those people who drag those stones across the deserts in Egypt probably did not enjoy that process, But they do have this idea that the only way for somebody to get income is to have a job.
Yeah, and respect.
Yeah.
You see, this thing called job also comes with respect. So you respect it even if you're making 10 cents an hour, if you got a job.
You got a job.
You're not respected if you don't have a job.
One of the problems we have always, this is really interesting, and I really think they're going to make they're going to movie sometime out of your life, because it's the most interesting screenplay I can ever imagine. But thank you. Thank you. I got to kiss your hand again.
Oh, my love, my love.
Thank you. Your pleasure. Colia Clark. Sorry we've run out of time. Thanks a lot. So good to see you. Let's give them the best of the holiday season under the conditions.
The best of the best.
Big changes in the air.
The Kwanzas, the Hanukkahs, the Christmases, the little Christmases.
The whole ball of wax,
Have a ball.
Yeah, right.
Change this world.
Yes, indeed, by all means. Okay, thanks for viewing. We'll be coming back again tomorrow. Thanks again.
Thank you so much, Harold.
Yeah, okay.
It's been my pleasure. I always enjoyed talking with you. We have so much fun.
You're a trip, girl.
I got to send you all this stuff.
Trip.
But I stumbled into this.
But that thing
I stumbled into this stuff about kids.